It's Super Bowl 57, Kansas City versus Philadelphia. We'll break down the game and discuss our Super Bowl winner picks against the spread and the over-under line. We'll also debate passing, rushing, and receiving prop bets and who will win the Super Bowl MVP. And we'll take a look at some of the more exotic prop bets. It's all coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee.
And I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants.
Michael, I cannot believe that this is our last show of the year, but we have good news for you guys. Our contract has been renewed. We will be back next year, starting with some great preseason content in August. We've got a lot of neat things planned, and it's all involved getting you involved in the show more. That is all going to come and revealed in August. So you don't miss anything. Be sure that you are subscribed. Smash that subscribe button as well as the bell icon.
Eric, we've come to this part of the season. It's been a great season. I'm super excited to continue to break down this part of the season. But, you know, we need a little bit of help. We always could use a little bit of help. And so we're going to bring a special guest in, somebody who's been with us several times before. Welcome back for us, Aaron Dean. Good to have you, Aaron.
Hey, it's always a pleasure being back with you guys, and thanks for having me back on. It's always fun to talk some football.
All right, guys, it is Super Bowl 57, the number one seed from the AFC versus the number one seed in the NFC, the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles. And as the line would show, this should be a really close game. Both teams are evenly matched. They both come in with a 16-3 record, counting their playoff wins. In addition to that, they have scored, believe it or not, the exact same number of points total for the year, 546. In this even matchup, Michael, how do you break it down? Who has the edge?
Wow, well, you touched on a lot of really interesting stats there. You know, we know that the Chiefs are the top passing offense in the NFL, and the Eagles are the top passing defense in the NFL. I'm very conflicted. This game brings a lot of things to the bubble for discussion. And as you all, folks know who've watched our show, I love to talk about the coaching impact. I mean, look how good of a job Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy and crew did protecting Patrick Mahomes against a pretty stingy defense of the Bengals. That will happen again, but I think there was even more learnings that him going to his left was a big deal. So I am nervous that he's going to be able to stay healthy. I know they say he's obviously better off or will be better off this next weekend than he was just after a 1 week repair, but it's, high ankle sprains take longer than that to recover. And so I'm still nervous of that. We're going to hear that he's 100%, and I just don't believe it. If he stays healthy, this is going to be a closer game. And I'll let you guys break down some of the stats and talk about some of the specific positions. I do think the coaching edge is significantly in the Chiefs' favor. Although I think it's going to likely be close for most of the game. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as you would think with these high-powered offenses, partly because of Mahomes' health, maybe also partly because of Jalen Hurts' health. And I think that the Eagles are going to win this game. And if Mahomes were to get hurt or things were going to break down for the Chiefs, some other way, I think it will be even easier for the Eagles to win this game.
Man, I'm really torn because I think it might be Philly because while they don't have the coach and they don't have the best quarterback in this situation, they do have the best offensive line and they do have the best defensive line. And really in football, it comes down to those two things. Can you run the ball? And then can you stop the ball and put pressure on the other opposing quarterback? And the Eagles can do both of those things. An interesting stat I heard this week was it's only happened 18 times where the line has moved greater than 1.5 points when it opened up. And the spread or the public, when they move the line, more than 1.5 points, they're 14-4 against the spread. And so, that line has drastically moved towards Philly when it opened up, obviously with Kansas City being the favorite, and it moved directly right over to the Philadelphia Eagles. So 14-4 is really, really hard to go up against in the Super Bowls. The last 18 times this has ever happened. But I still can't get Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes out of my head because they are an underdog. When has that? You just don't bet against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid as an underdog.
So I guess what I'd like to do is see both of your guys' IDs, because you guys are not the real Aaron and Michael. It was at the beginning of these playoffs that we all sat here and we agreed that the AFC was going to win the Super Bowl. They were the superior conference. And you guys say, well, we didn't see the playoffs. Okay, well, what happened in the playoffs? Okay, I love the Eagles. I'm the only one on the panel here that picked the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl. Okay, so I'm not an Eagles hater, but they beat a giant team. They crushed them, right? They won by 31 points. But a giant team that I think was very unworthy as far as a playoff team. And then they beat the Niners. Again, they blew them out, 24 points. But it was the Niners without a quarterback for almost half the game, literally without a quarterback, and with a fourth-string quarterback for much of the game. So I'm going to go with Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm going to really hate it if the Eagles win by 1 point, but I'm going to take advantage of the money line. I think the Eagles, the Chiefs win outright here.
If this comes down to a coin flip or a field goal at the end of the game or a touchdown, the Chiefs are going to win this game because of the coaching angle, because of the Pat Mahomes, as long as he's still in the game angle, and the experience, the playoff experience that this Chiefs team has will play out. And even like you said, Eric, having a tougher road, to the Super Bowl. The reason why I still am thinking it's the Eagles is I don't think it's going to come down to that. And I do want to give some props before I come back to the injury angle, which I think is really going to be the determining factor. I want to give some props to this Eagles team who has won me over. Yeah, I didn't pick them, but I'm really impressed with how Nick Sirianni and even Gannon on the defensive side, and I'll even give Steichen some credit as well, have coached up this team. When I watch this Eagles team, I see a defense that hustles more than any other team in the NFL. And when a defensive line hustles, when you can see Ndamukong Suh, who, by the way, has been an impact all over the NFL, look what he's done playoff-wise, is challenging as a player as he is. He hustles. Even Fletcher Cox, who's getting old, is hustling. Jonathan Sweat hustles. When defensive players hustle, when they didn't get a chance to first make the sack or make the tackle on the backfield, it makes a huge impact. This defensive back squad with Gardner Johnson and Kadarius Slay and Bradbury and this kid Blankenship who came out of nowhere, who I think he was undrafted, they're so impressive. They're by far the best defensive backfield in the NFL. To me, it comes down to the injuries. Is L'Jarius Sneed going to play? I don't know. Gay is also coming, is coming out of being somewhat injured. The wide receivers are injured all over the place. Although, Aaron and I talked about this, I think Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy will be, will coach up around that as much as is possible. I think it's not going to come down to a coin flip because of these injuries. If somehow I'm wrong and Mahomes is really 100% and L'Jarius Sneed can play and Gay is not a problem, then I might be wrong on that coin flip. But I don't think it's going to come down to a coin flip.
There's a middle ground, Michael, that I think you missed. The middle ground is Mahomes is not going to be 100%, but Mahomes is going to be really good. I think 2 weeks off is going to be. I think he's going to be better than he was against Cincinnati. If you think go on, Aaron.
Yeah, so Eric, that's interesting that you bring that up because neither is Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is not 100% healthy either. And let's be honest about that too, is that when Jalen Hurts came back towards the very tail end of the regular season, he looked terrible. He did not throw the ball very well. And what's interesting about these playoffs is that we have not seen Jalen Hurts really having to carry his team because obviously, for obvious reasons, their defense really pounded the Giants, and they were able to run the ball and just kind of play keep away there for a while and just kind of run away with the game. And then the 49ers, knocking out Purdy and then knocking out their fourth string or backup quarterback at the time of that game as well. You didn't have to see Jalen Hurts throw the ball. He is not 100% either with that shoulder. I was all in on the Eagles. I don't know, man. I'm all in on the Chiefs. I can't get away from Patrick Mahomes,
yes.
Andy Reid. You won me over.
You moved him,
won
Eric.
me over.
Congrats.
All right, so let's make sure that we're all clear. We need to move on. We got a lot of other bets to make. I of things on the board, I'm going with the Chiefs on the money line. Aaron, you're going with the Chiefs on the money line or the spread?
Yeah, I'll take the Chiefs money line plus 105, and I'd also then potentially parlay that with the over, because if you're going Chiefs, you got to go over. If you're going Philly, I think you take the under.
Michael?
Yeah, Aaron just said it for me. So I'm not 100%. I'm not really on top of where Jalen Hurts' injury might be. I think if it's quite significant, I'm not excited about Gardner Minshew, and I think that would be a disaster for the Eagles. But I'm making this assumption that he's healthy enough. I think this claim stays low scoring and close, kind of similar to what we saw in that Niners game in the first half. And then the Eagles kind of start to walk away with it at the end. And so I'm going to go ahead and go with the spread with the Eagles, but actually keep the under. I think it's going to be like maybe a 27-17 score.
Let's take a look at some prop bets, starting with the quarterbacks and passing yards. So I'll kick it off. I'll be pretty brief here. I think the Chiefs are going to win, but I really respect that Eagles defense. And I think Pat Mahomes does not have Hill anymore, who can be that really deep threat, who can get a lot of run after catch. Both of the last two Super Bowls that Mahomes has been, he has not eclipsed this 289 yards. I think Philadelphia earlier in the game may be trying to play keep away with Pat Mahomes and melt the clock, the running game. I'm going to go the under, and I cannot believe that I get negative 110 as opposed to negative 120 by doing the under on passing yards for Pat Mahomes.
I agree 100% with that on Pat Mahomes, and I actually would take the under on Jalen Hurts as well. Aaron?
Yeah, definitely. I would take the under on both of those as well. I think the key for Philadelphia to win this game is to keep the ball away from Patrick Mahomes. And we've learned one thing about the Chiefs is that you can run on the Chiefs defense. And if you can do that, you will milk the clock. And I see more running game out of the Eagles and passing game.
All right. This is so weird. We're all in agreement. Well, I have a feeling that's going to end pretty darn soon. Let's talk about the rushing statistics. Aaron, I'll let you go first this time.
Yeah, my favorite one here is Jalen Hurts over the 49.5. I think he's actually going to run the ball a lot more. He'll be under duress a little bit with the defensive line of the Chiefs. Chris Jones is a very dominant player. It doesn't matter if you double or triple team that guy. He finds his way to the quarterback. But Jalen Hurts is very elusive and knows how to use his legs really, really well. And to be honest with you, it just seems like over the last 3 or 4 weeks since he's been in, the timing and the rhythm has not been there with Jalen Hurts in the passing game. He's looked a little flustered. And I think a little bit of that is due to the shoulder injury. And I think he will depend on what he's always done well growing up and doing well in college, and that was with use his legs. So I kind of think he will use his legs a little bit more.
Michael?
Yeah, so the Chiefs are a switch up between zone and man defense and how they run their defensive backs. And what that means is sometimes they're in man, and we saw what that did for Joe Cool, right? Like he was able to run the ball more than he typically does. And Jalen Hurts is a running quarterback. He will be told to run in those situations, and he will do so. And then they'll actually have some design runs. So I agree of all the numbers on here, that's the one I feel best about. I actually feel pretty much that Mahomes is, unless he's a lot better off, that they're going to protect him as much as they can. And so make sure he doesn't run. So only late in the game, we'll see him run, similar to what he did against the Bengals unless they're in desperation mode. So I think that there's probably the under there, but it's just such a low rushing yard. So I'm uncomfortable with that bet. I think Miles Sanders is going to cede some carries to Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott. And so I just don't see him going on the over, but I just don't feel comfortable picking one way or the other on that bet, just because he could break one long run and get himself over the 58-yard total. And Pacheco, I just don't know how the Chiefs are going to get a lot of rushing yards against the Eagles, but they may have to. So
yeah,
maybe that's my second favorite, is going with the under on Pacheco.
Oh, well, look at that. Here's a disagreement. So that's what I was going to say with Isaiah Pacheco. I'm going to go the over on Pacheco. I think this all emanates, Michael, from our disagreement of who we think is going to win the game. Because if you think a game script is going to be that the Eagles are going to be up a touchdown or more for much of the game, then you're going to see Jerick McKinnon in more and more plays and less running. I don't see that as the game script here. I think the Chiefs will always be close in this game and likely lead for much of the game. And if that is true, I think 49.5 is a very small number for Pacheco. No one respects McKinnon more than me. He gave me my fantasy league championship in the playoffs. But in the real playoffs, the NFL playoffs, the Chiefs have leaned much more on Pacheco. And you might want to wait, though, for this. Just make sure that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is definitely going to be out and they're not going to steal any carries. I do think Pacheco's their guy when they're ahead. So that's where I'm going.
Eric, one little side note, and to add something to your thing there is Isaiah Pacheco is a speedster. And if there's anyone that's going to break a long one in this game, he could be the guy to break off a 50 to 80-yard run. And there's your over right there with one run. So there is that high probability that could possibly happen with Isaiah Pacheco as well.
I have to pause here for just a second, Eric, and say that it's amazing to me that you just told the world that you won your conference championship because of the fact that Joe Burrow and Chase didn't play in that Buffalo Bengals game. So I just want to make sure that anyone who is listening, which is now just Aaron, maybe, because we probably won't show this, knows that you actually lost under what Yahoo suggested should be the result.
we will. I'll put up on the screen a screenshot of Yahoo saying that I won. But I'll tell you,
Yahoo did say he won, but they also made suggestions as to how to make sure that people didn't go crazy if people did such things. So
I'll tell you who will be watching this is Gary Kurtzman, and I'm sure he agrees with you because he's somehow disagreeing with Yahoo and saying he won. But let's move on.
Did you not get the email from Yahoo that gave 5 suggestions on how to approach it?
Of course I did. I just chose to ignore it. Moving on. Why receiving yards prep? I was going to go to Michael, but I really don't want to hear from him right now. So let's go to Aaron. Who do you like?
Oh, man. Yeah, so, okay, a couple different routes. You had mentioned earlier that you think that the Chiefs will be close enough and they are going to run the ball, and I agree. But I do also think that they are going to use both of their running backs in the passing game quite a bit in this game. I feel like Andy Reid, knowing that his wide receiving core is severely injured, they're going to be without quite a few pieces. It sounds like Juju Smith-Schuster is definitely going to play, but to what extent? I really feel like McKinnon is a guy that I would bet the over on the 22.5 yards. He'll probably get that in the first quarter alone, if not more. The second one to me is Travis Kelce. I know the number has significantly increased over the week, but it can't get any. It doesn't matter how much it climbs. You always just bet the over on Kelce because the guy's going to end up. If he needs to have 9 catches in the game, he'll get 12, and then he's going to be Patrick Mahomes' number 1 and most valued and favorite target for sure in this game.
I like the way you're thinking, Aaron, but I had a slightly different take, and I think the key factor is game script. Do you think Kansas City will be ahead more in this game than behind? They've been using Isaiah Pacheco. in the passing game. He caught a bunch of passes. I think 6 targets or 6 catches last week. So I just need him in the game. As long as he's in the game, I think that Kansas City is going to attack. I've said it before, Philadelphia against their strength, which is their cornerbacks, and instead do some short passes to their running backs. And I just like 14.5 over 22.5 as far as a barrier to cover. So I went with the over for Pacheco. I have one more, but I want to give Michael a chance to get in here.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned game script in the last conversation, Eric, and I think I actually agree with your sentiments. If the game script is such that the Chiefs are able to continue to run, and they should start to run early on, then Pacheco is going to beat that. I think that the game script is irrelevant for Kelce on the 78.5, although I feel like it's awfully high. I think the game will be close no matter what early on, and even even later on, if somehow the Chiefs win this game, I think the game will continue to be close, and they're going to have to continue to use Kelce on those third down plays. But I think the same plays well for these running backs. I think the Chiefs will be smart enough to use these running backs during the game, and so I'm tempted to pick both of the overs for for them. I'm just more nervous about the Eagles side of the ball because I think they're going to run the ball a lot. I see one of these receivers getting the over. I just don't know which, and so I'm not comfortable on either one of those.
I love these really intriguing, a little more exotic options here. I'm going to read them real quickly, and we'll talk about them. What will be more in the game, punts or touchdowns? What would be more in the game? Total points scored or the longest field goal made? Or what will happen first? Any TD versus any sack, or punt versus any score? Who'd like to kick this off?
I'll go ahead and take on that first one. So, this goes with the game script to some extent. I think I mentioned that even if the Chiefs were to pull this one out, this game is going to be close and low scoring. But if the Eagles game script plays out, it's definitely going to be a lower scoring game, which means I think that there's a higher likelihood of more punts than touchdowns. So I like that how the numbers came out. I could see there being 4 or 5 punts and maybe only 2 or 3 touchdowns in this game.
A straight bet I'd make is an any sack over any TD.
Okay, so Aaron, you and I are going to pick different things, but we're going to be very upset if the opening kickoff is returned for a touchdown. Because I am going to go with what will happen first, that there'll be a punt before there'll be any score. There's a couple of reasons why that. I've just found in previous Super Bowls, there's a little bit of nerves that start off the game. And I think when you have nerves, it affects the offense a little bit more than the defense.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I mean, the handicap there, I think, is appropriate. I guess the only thing that would really hurt that is if there was a turnover on downs, if somebody had 2 or 3, first downs before and went for it on the 50, yard line or 45-yard line. So,
or especially if they
or pick six or scoop and score,
or turn the ball over in their own territory.
Yeah,
would be a nightmare.
Yeah. The only caveat I'll give to that third question, Aaron, is I do think the Chiefs, even though I'm picking the Eagles here, I do think the Chiefs will do everything in their power to protect Mahomes, just like they did against the Bengals. And so, and that includes him getting rid of the ball quickly just to not get hit. So,
fair point.
Here's the big one, folks. This is the Super Bowl MVP odds. So I built it out. So we got listed everybody who was 50-1 or less. So there's a lot of people to pick from. It goes without saying that there is a huge bias toward quarterbacks. In 11 of the last 16 Super Bowls, a quarterback has won MVP. You've got a situation where we've got 2 quarterbacks who may very well be the story in this game, not only because they're both the stars of the team, but because they are the youngest combined of any quarterback duo. This is the first time in any Super Bowl we've had 2 starting black quarterbacks. I think some of these game stories could lean the voters to push toward the quarterback. So then it becomes, who do you think will win? So I'm going to give you my long shot pick. but I'm going Pat Mahomes here. The other reason I'm going Pat Mahomes is he spreads the ball. 10 guys caught passes. Look, Kelsey's a great option, but for Kelsey to get the MVP, he's got to score at least 2 TDs, and no one else scored TD, or no one else do too much in the passing game. So anyway, Pat Mahomes is my pick.
Eric, okay, yeah, I love the pick, but we just saw it about 4 weeks ago where Travis Kelce caught like 14 balls for 100 and some odd yards and 3 TDs and was by far clearly the player of the game. And that was with a full complement of wide receivers and running backs. So I think the value, I think you're absolutely right. Obviously, everyone is swaying that the quarterback situation, both being the first time ever, both African Americans being a quarterback in the game. I think there's going to be potentially some heavy, if they have either just a really good game, I feel like the quarterback situation is going to probably win the Super Bowl. If you're going to do value for your bet, really, to me, Travis Kelce at plus 1,100 is a fantastic bet to lay 100 to win 1,100. Because if the Chiefs do win this game, it's probably going to be a large part because Travis Kelce was heavily involved. And I just love him in the red zone. On the flip side of that, if you're going to go with another good value bet, Miles Sanders at plus 2,200. If the Eagles are going to win this game, it's going to have to be because they're running the ball. It just, is he going to score enough touchdowns? Jalen Hurts might sneak out a couple of those with inside the 3-yard line. They love to run the QB sneak with him, and he might steal a couple of those, touchdowns that might help seal the deal for Miles Sanders. And then on the real extreme for me, if the Chiefs win this game, I think it's going to be three things: coaching, quarterback, and their defense is going to have to come to play a little bit. Chris Jones, a big wild card for me. He could be a guy that could have 3 big sacks with a big fumble recovery or a scoop and score, or leave someone to be able to scoop and score because of his sack fumble. So that to me is what I'm kind of leaning.
Michael?
Yeah, unless Pat Mahomes gets knocked out of this game and somehow Chad Henne's the hero, I think that if the Chiefs win the game, there's no question in my mind that Pat Mahomes gets the MVP, even if he throws for 117 yards and 12 yards rushing. That'll be what happens, because it's just the script for Hollywood plays a role in who gets the MVP, because this is a money-making sport. So I like that bet if you think the Chiefs are going to win this game. I might even say, bet both of because of the handicap, bet both Mahomes and Hurts, and you probably come out ahead on money. But I hate gambling, and so it's really, when it's true gambling and you're just, this is the one area where you really can't make some educated guesses, except for to go with the quarterbacks. I guess if the Eagles win, which is what I'm predicting, that's where you might see someone else get the MVP. Because even, despite what I just said about Mahomes getting in, even if he has an atrocious game, if they win, I think if Jalen Hurts has a tough game and it's relied on the rushing game or the defense is what makes it happen, you could see one of these other guys get it. And it could be a kicker. It could be a situation where what happens if, both quarterbacks or one of the quarterbacks goes out, and a kicker ends up kicking 4 or 5 field goals and a long one to win it, then you could see a kicker get it. But I don't know if that's ever happened. So
it will not be a kicker. I will stake my reputation on this show. That will not be a kicker.
Fair enough.
I'll find some Raider.
That's how I feel about gambling. I won't even pick anyone else.
Michael, I will find some Raider paraphernalia to wear on the first show next year.
Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself. Right. It's not good. It's really not a good look, Eric.
For a kicker to get the MVP.
Well, I was gonna say something shocking, but it's not gonna seem shocking next to a kicker winning MVP. If you say, Eric, what about a long shot? What about the value? I like what you say, Aaron. I understand what you mean about the value with Kelce, but I want to pick a Chief who, if he has a good game, it will be outside of what Patrick Mahomes is doing, which is Isaiah Pacheco. I've been really high on Pacheco this show. So I said over on yards passing, over on yards rushing. If he can do that and get some a touchdown or two for 35-1, Aaron said it. He can break one. He has breakaway speed, so he can have a couple of long ones. So I think at 35-1, I like that option.
Well, Eric, it almost feels like you have an inside skinny on this game. Like you've talked to Eric Bieniemy or Andy Reid, and you know that they're going to just push the rush game hard. I just want to remind you that Isaiah Pacheco had, I think, 37 yards on 42 carries last week or something like that. I made those numbers up, but I know he didn't do very well on the ground last week. And that wasn't because the Bengals have the best rush defense in the league.
Okay. Do you want me to start breaking down Harrison Butker's? You asked me for a long shot of 35-1. Do I think he's going to win MVP?
I just said if both quarterbacks get hurt and the game's 18-15, then maybe a kicker gets it.
So it's interesting, I'll say this last little bit here with the way I see this game. It's interesting is that in the history of the NFL with Super Bowls, the first go around, or top passers of the NFL, there's only been 7 times that the top passer has made it to the Super Bowl. The first being Dan Marino, and ironically, they're 0-7 in this game. So, but I'm going to go against the trend. I really think it's Patrick Mahomes that does the final breaking of the jinx, and it'll be that 1-7. And I think it's going to be Patrick Mahomes.
Aaron, I don't know if I like it when you're on my side. You agree with me, but you point out statistics that are the opposite of what we're saying.
Hey, it's okay because at one point, they can't always hold true, right? So there's the law. Averages come in, and it's like instead of it's like being, oh, that's the way it's always going to go. It's, oh, he's due, right?
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I think this is going to be a competitive game. The Eagles absolutely could win, but as good as that Eagles defense has been, and it's been great, the number 1 ranked defense in all of the NFL. Understand, I took a look at their schedule and their playoffs. They have not faced top quality quarterbacks. I think they faced Dak Prescott once because he was out the other time that they faced, and Aaron Rodgers. And I think they scored 40 in the 30s against them in those 2 games. They haven't faced anyone like Pat Mahomes, and I think Pat Mahomes is going to show them something that they haven't seen. Michael, any final comments before we?
Oh, I think that's the X factor, right? Can the Eagles run with a better team? Can they be as good as they were all season against a better team? I think that they definitely can. I think if the Chiefs were 100%, I'd say the Chiefs would win this game, but I just don't believe that they are. And I think that that's going to come out during the game. Injuries are just so impactful. Anyone who's had an injury knows that it changes your mindset, and that's unfortunate.
Have a very safe and happy off season, and we'll see you in August.
For the record, Eric would have gotten trounced if that Bills Bengals game played out. Even if Burrow got hurt halfway during the game and Jamar Chase decided.
Let me explain a couple things to you.
Eric,
he won by 4 points, and Burrow and Chase didn't get a play.
Let me explain.
This is lot like this. This is even worse, Aaron, than the situation that happened to Trimble.
We had.
And in that situation, they split it 50-50.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me give you the facts, because maybe you're not clear on the facts. The facts are I was up by 3.5 points before the game. And then he took the lead because Burrow threw a touchdown pass. He took the lead, and then a tragedy happened, right? And I can't believe you want to exploit the tragedy and the best. I stand by what Yahoo said, which is let's just wipe out the
Oh,
game.
That's
mean,
so
you-
terrible.
It was even worse, Aaron. Even worse.
That's so terrible.
Did Cincinnati complain that they were leading when they wiped out the game? No, they said that we should not.
That's because they
I'm gonna
only
send
played
this
like
to you, Aaron, just so
7
you can
minutes of
see
the
it.
first quarter.
I remember like
Oh.
saying to Eric, like during the week, saying, "Oh, it's a bummer. You know, your team just didn't show up this week, and you know, you obviously lost." You know, this was even, you know, halfway during Sunday when his team just sucked and was going to just get trounced by like 50 points or something like that.
Again, I was
Uh,
ahead before Monday night, and he had some guy named Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, doubtful that they weren't going to do anything. And even though he took the lead, you don't know whether Burrow would have thrown 5 more interceptions, and Chase would have
Oh,
fumbled
my-
several times.
Oh, Eric, I love
And
it.
the
I love it.
negative would have, you don't know that. But
It's so
instead of
bad. It's
instead
so
of, like,
bad.
guessing, let's just follow what the NFL and Yahoo did, and let's not exploit the tragedy. And let's just,
Wait, I distinctly remember
that's hilarious.
receiving
I love
an
it, Eric.
email
That's awesome.
from Yahoo telling us there's 5 different options, and I think you probably lose on all 5.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I just love that I got to call it out. So
that
you
was
guys
my
have a
favorite-
good day, Eric. I
That
think
was
we
my
should-
favorite thing on the show, and you better damn believe that will make the show.
Oh yeah,
That's
I love it.
awesome.
I love that you said it. That's funny.
So, anyways, thanks, guys.
All right, boys, it's fun. Thank you.